music. Thank you all for gathering here today. Here lies, let's just call him Johnny. He was born and raised in a small town. He enjoyed simple pleasures like Taco Tuesdays and the local baseball games. His proudest personal achievement was getting 20 likes on an online comment. He also dedicated himself to other hobbies like sports betting and scrolling on TikTok. In fact, he clocked in over 9 years on that app alone, just swiping. He never actually left a 50-mile radius of his hometown. He never got to see Paris, like he always said he wanted to. The book he'd been working on for the past 37 years? It's only 5 pages long, and another word will never be added to it. He also dreamed of opening his own brewery, but, that dream died long before he did. He lived for 62 years, but he really died at 25. He moved through his entire life in silent fear and crippling self-doubt, never experiencing what his life could have been if he hadn't stopped himself. He always put his dreams off until tomorrow, forgetting that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. I wonder what he thinks now. What would he do if he had one more try, one more day? I wonder if, in his final moments, he knew his biggest fear was about to come true. Not spiders, not heights, not even death itself, but the final, crushing realization that his entire life was nothing but mediocre. Mediocre is one of those words. Its meaning shifts depending on who you ask. The actual definition is of only moderate quality, which is to say average, right in the middle. The center of the bell curve. Not good, not bad, just there. On its own, that doesn't sound so terrible. It just means normal. But how would you feel if someone rated your entire life a 5 out of 10? Imagine if the best word someone could use to describe your whole existence was mid. You'd feel as though your life was wasted, at least a little. Something about that feels inherently wrong, hollow. Nobody wants to be called mediocre. If you asked anyone on the street, do you want to live a mediocre life? They would immediately say no, probably hell no. This fear of living a mediocre, mundane, ordinary life is the strongest it's ever been, and it's getting worse. Many of us will spend our entire lives trying to overcome this fear, yet feel as if we've made no progress. We take 2 steps forward, only to see the goalposts move a mile further. We use up the little time we have trying to break above this invisible line, trying to prove that our lives amounted to something more. But why? What's so wrong with being average? What's the problem with a simple, normal life? Technically, there isn't one. There's nothing inherently wrong with living an average life. By definition, most people throughout history have lived normal lives. We need average people to keep the world running. But the idea of average changes drastically based on a million different variables, because being mediocre necessitates comparison. If you're the only person alive, you're living the best life ever. If you're one of 2, you're either the best or the worst. What we call average today is a significantly better existence than the average life of the not-so-distant past. 100 generations from now, the average life will likely be better than the lives of today's millionaires. That's just what happens as the quality of life improves. Even today, the global median household income is around $10,000 a year. Billions still lack consistent access to clean water. For perspective, the average life in a developed nation is a life of unimaginable privilege. While it's good to appreciate what you have, I still don't think a mediocre life is something we should automatically accept or strive for. But why is it so terrifying? Why do we fight so hard to avoid it? First, there's a biological reason. The fear is encoded in our genes. At the end of the day, every cell in your body wants to survive and thrive. A huge part of survival has always been dependent on other people. Our ability to connect, communicate, and collaborate is what makes us human. This web of interaction is called society, and a natural part of society is status. Status brings competition, a desire to stand out, to be valuable. If you aren't useful to others, your chances of survival drop. So, encoded in your DNA over thousands of generations is a natural fear of being mediocre, or more specifically, low status. This fear pushes you to move toward the top, because we all know that rewards in life are disproportionate. If you're at the bottom, you get almost nothing. In the middle, you get just enough to get by. But if you're number 1, you get almost everything. Think about it. In any field, the person at the top doesn't just get a little more than everyone else. They might get 10,000 times more. Almost everything you do is, in some way, influenced by this dynamic. This, on its own, isn't necessarily a problem. Your brain is just trying to make sure you're useful. But recently, something has added gasoline to this ancient fire. Something has put us on a never-ending treadmill, making the fear of being mediocre explode. The internet and social media. The internet is an amazing invention. It connects us to everything, all the time. But its greatest promise, access to all the world's knowledge, often gives way to its most common use, a machine for wasting time and comparing ourselves to people we'll never meet. Social media runs on algorithms designed to keep you watching for as long as possible. The way to do that is to show you things that are bigger, better, and more exciting than your own reality. It creates an arms race for your attention, and a huge part of that is triggering emotion. The companies behind these platforms know that two of our strongest emotions are envy and jealousy, which come from comparison. They know that showing you someone living a better life, even a fake one, will spark something in your brain and keep you scrolling. Your conscious mind may know it's not all real, but your ancient brain, which evolved over millennia in nature, can't tell the difference between pixels and reality. In any area of your life where you feel you've done well, you can now find 1,000 people who have done 1,000 times more, in half the time. You see 2 0-year-olds making millions a month. You see the most beautiful people on the planet, constantly. You see people your age, traveling the world, starting families, creating art, living lives that look like a dream. What happens when the pond you're swimming in is no longer your small town, but an ocean of 8 billion people? What happens when you can track the real-time net worth of billionaires who make more in a week than your entire bloodline has combined? What happens when you know that no matter how hard you try, you'll never be number one in everything? What happens is the crippling fear that you're living a mediocre life. Your brain doesn't care how far you've come. It only cares about the gap between you and the perceived goal. And when that gap feels infinite, it keeps building this fear inside you, because it's always trying to be number one, even when that's impossible. But the fear of mediocrity is deeper than just social media or evolutionary programming. If you sit alone with yourself and think for long enough, you'll eventually arrive at the idea of death. The fact that one day you simply won't be here. This terrifies us, so we try to fight it. We start families, build companies, write our names in the history books, create something so personal that we hope it will outlive us. We do all this to escape the idea that our life was meaningless. This is where the true fear of being mediocre comes from. It's the fear of being forgettable, the fear of just surviving, but never truly living. Mediocrity isn't about your income or your house. Mediocrity is when you have the shot to build a life you want, a life made possible by generations of sacrifice. And you don't even try. It's when you choose the safe road you don't care about because you're afraid. It's when you choose comfortable numbness over what you truly want. Because no amount of comfort can ever fill the void of meaninglessness that comes from a life you didn't choose. A mediocre life is one that lacks personal purpose, a mission beyond just getting to the next day. For most of history, survival times was times the purpose. People didn't have much choice. But if you're watching this, you've likely had your survival needs met. You want something more, and this is where the definition becomes personal. If someone dreams of being a farmer, and they go out and do that, that's not mediocre. If someone wants to live a simple life, provide for their family, and travel to Paris once a year, and they achieve that, that's not mediocre. They are living true to themselves. But if someone lives their entire life without ever expressing who they are, or even attempting the things they secretly care about, especially when they have the chance, that is a waste. I would even call someone successful by society's standards mediocre if they look back on their life and realize they never actually cared about any of it. When we say we fear being mediocre, what we truly fear is a life lacking our own meaning. And most people today are mediocre. They accept the life given to them without asking what they actually want, and you can't entirely blame them. The system is set up for mediocrity. We aren't rewarded for trying something different. If anything, we reward the opposite. When we're young, we're told to chase our dreams. But as we get older, that idea is slowly beaten out of us. We get criticized for wanting more. We're seen as weird for having a niche interest. We're told to do things the right way. It becomes isolating to try. For many young people today, it's seen as cringe or corny to be passionate about something. If you start posting your art, learning an instrument, or trying anything different from the group, you're not encouraged. It's sad. because most people only need one or two believers to pursue something remarkable. But that support is rare, especially during the long, lonely middle part of the journey. So, how do you escape this? There's no simple three-step process, but here is a path. First, dismantle the idea of mediocrity itself. Understand it's just a word we made up. You will be mediocre in some areas of your life, and that's okay. It's impossible to be the best at everything. Even if you are, for how long? Playing that game is a losing battle. And remember, the average life you live is still better than that of 99% of all humans who have ever existed. You've been given this miracle of consciousness for a short time. Appreciate it. Once you understand that, realize what you truly want is meaning and purpose, your own personal meaning, something worth suffering for that you truly care about. If you can find that, your life will not be mediocre to you, which is all that matters. How do you find it? No one can tell you. There is no universal purpose. We are just here for a brief moment on a small dot, and then we're gone. And that's not just dark, it's freeing. If nothing ultimately matters, then you can't fail at existence. You are free to decide your own meaning. The pen to write your story is in your hands. Your brain is a problem-solving machine. It becomes unhappy when it has nothing meaningful to work on. So, find a problem worth solving. Find a mountain worth climbing, so that even if you never reach the summit, you can find joy in the climb itself. This requires you to put down your phone and have a long, honest think about your life. What interests you? What story do you want to tell? What do you want from your one chance at existence? Even if you don't have a 100% clear path, that's fine. Just find a direction. Any direction is better than none. Then, start making progress, even if it's small. And once you start, keep going. And make your younger self proud. The number one regret of the dying is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. I think the biggest modern regret will be all the time wasted on our phones, distracting ourselves to death with meaningless pixels. I'm not religious, but I think the closest thing to hell would be realizing, in your last moments, that the one life you had wasn't even yours. That you will die with your dreams still inside you. That you walked the path everyone else did, chasing comfort and algorithms, never even attempting to see what your life could have been. Hell is the realization that you lived, and will die, mediocre. But heaven is knowing that even if you didn't achieve every single thing you set out to do, you did it your way. You lived with intention, purpose, and presence. You gave it a shot. Even if you only made it 1% of the way up your own mountain, that is infinitely better than reaching the top of someone else's. During your last moments, you'll be filled with memories of effort and progress toward a goal you set for yourself. You'll be glad you got to exist. And you'll know that if your younger self could see you then, they would be proud. You will drift off into nothing, knowing that whatever your life was, the one thing no one could call it was mediocre. And that is the perfect way to end a life.